Hello and welcome to Get Involved Referee, the podcast that gets you to the heart of refereeing and the big decisions in Scottish football. With me, Lindsay Herron, and Stephen Conroy, our special guest this evening, and David McDonald, who's been getting plenty of reaction from the fans. My goodness, it could have been arguably the most explosive VAR weekend of the season, Steve. Everyone seems to be up in arms. Dundee United and Kilmarnock have complained to officialdom. They're not happy with the big decisions that went against them in their games. Celtic fans complaining about Rangers decisions at Fir Park. Rangers fans complaining about Celtic decisions at Celtic Park. It's all going bonkers.
A magnificent choice of phrase, Lindsay. Everybody up in arms. And we'll discuss that later on. Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the most controversial, the most worrying, but certainly the most explosive weekend of VAR, when we've got things to talk about in each and every game. Some good, sadly the vast majority bad, and some inexplicable.
How alarming is that though? Because we're now 4 or 5 months into it. Was it October we started, wasn't it, just before the break? Now we're 3 or 4 months into it, and we don't seem to be getting any better. It seems to be getting worse.
No, we're certainly not getting any better. It's debatable whether we're getting worse, but it's certainly not getting any better. And we all agreed that there would be teething troubles to sort out. The things that worry me about it is that in each incident that we'll talk about, well, maybe each of them, but certainly the vast majority of them, there's nothing wrong with the technology. The technology has shown plain, clear, simple what has happened. It's been our interpretation of it. And even more so, sometimes, that some of the decisions that the ref on the field makes, and I was a ref on the field, I've made mistakes. The whole point of having VAR there is to get me out of a hole of my own making. And we've not done that this weekend, and some of them are just totally inexplicable.
But maybe we'll just start on the big ones that have caused the most controversy, and that would be Dundee United and Kilmarnock. We don't normally lead off with these guys so often, but they're the clubs that have actually taken their case to the SFA, and they're wanting answers, Steve. The big one for Dundee United, they're bottom of the table. Jim Goodwin trying to keep them alive in the Premiership, and a big penalty call goes against him. Now, not only that, the referee didn't give it. It was a VAR decision, wasn't it? And you've looked at it and you can't understand it.
No, I don't understand it. And I know Des, it's maybe a bit of a mixed blessing. Des isn't here tonight and he's lost his voice. That would have been a Brucey bonus if he'd been here. But it's Des's bugbear, the diving. That was a dive. Pure and simple, he cheated. Now,
we're talking about Curtis Main here.
Yes,
and the ball's going out of the box.
It doesn't matter where the ball's going. It's if you do the player. But there wasn't a foul. There was no contact. There was no attempt at contact. And the guy went down, and I hate the phrase like he's been shot with everything that's going on in the world, but he did go down as if he was shot, and he cheated. Now again, I've made mistakes reffing. Des has made mistakes reffing, and I think Craig simply just missed that, called it wrong. These things happen. But for VAR to have a look at it and not even call him to the monitor, I have no explanation for that.
You're now basically cheating VAR. Curtis Main has managed to cheat VAR.
Yes.
For years, players have managed to con referees to get opponents red cards or to get themselves a penalty. VAR was brought in to eliminate that. Curtis Main has managed to literally get a penalty by cheating VAR.
Yeah, absolutely. And it just emphasises the whole cheat scenario. It's appalling, and it's not the only one that we'll talk about today. He should be utterly ashamed of himself. And managers, teams, pundits, supporters are all very quick to come out and criticise other teams, especially managers. I haven't heard anybody from St Mirren coming out and saying that was a dive. And it would maybe be a sea change if somebody was to come out and say, my guy, it doesn't help Dundee United, but if they were to come out and say, my guy cheated today, and it'll be the last time it happens in my team. It would make a change, wouldn't it?
It doesn't happen very often, you're quite right. I'm racking my brains. One from memory would be the Kyle Lafferty one against Celtic, where he feigned a headbutt, and Walter Smith called him out publicly and actually banned him from the team. I think he got a subsequent ban for simulation, didn't he? Fined him, sorry, I beg your pardon. He fined him. So it doesn't happen very often, you're quite right.
No, not at all. And same as we said last week with Hatate. That, in my opinion, if it's missed on the day, and it was, retrospectively, that should be at least a 2-game ban. So the same as Hatate last week, he should be banned for 2 games.
It must be embarrassing for the SFA, surely, to watch these incidents back when they're being barraged with complaints from the clubs in question. What are they going to say to Dundee United, do you think, when they're asking for information?
In my experience, nothing. I have absolutely no idea what they're saying behind closed doors, they surely to God can't be happy with it. And they have to come up with an explanation for why these things happen. It's a clear explanation from Craig, and again I'm going to say I've made the same mistakes. He missed it. But the whole point of having VAR there is that somebody else gets a technological view on it. And we've miscalled it. It's not that we missed it on VAR. We've miscalled it.
Even if they come out and do apologise and say, look, we apologise, VAR has not been as efficient as what it should have been in this situation, that doesn't compensate Dundee United, who are currently sitting bottom of the league in 22 points, who are entering into a relegation battle if they're not already in that stage at this moment in the season. That doesn't compensate them. So, Lindsay, you've been in Scottish football for a long time. I don't want to say how many years because that will probably give away your age. But have you ever experienced, or do you remember your past events with the SFA, similar situations to this? Obviously, we're talking about VAR, where clubs have been penalised for certain incidents and how the SFA have dealt with it.
I can only remember disciplinary matters, David. I can't remember any on-field situations where they've taken action against clubs or they've certainly never replayed matches or anything like that for decisions. Once the decision's made, you can't overturn it. It's finished.
Yeah, it's done, and it doesn't help United. But if the SFA were to come out and say, there's something amiss with our interpretation of technology, it doesn't help you today, Mr. Goodwin, but we'll do our damnedest to make sure that that's not repeated. Again, it's no recompense for what happened at the weekend, but surely the acknowledgement that something's gone amiss, and we will do what we can to make sure it never happens again.
Is there a financial compensation there? Because at the end of the day, the clubs are paying for this. I mean, if you pay for any service at all, if you don't get the level of service, whatever it is you're expecting, then you get compensated. Is there a compensation package there for clubs when they're on the receiving end of this?
That's a very interesting point. I suppose you could draw the parallel with the COVID decision when they sent Partick Thistle down to the League One from the Championship, because when the season hadn't finished and they had a game in hand, and they sought some legal advice in that instance and got nowhere, Steve. So I don't know if Dundee United, for example, would suffer the same consequence. But you make a very good point. It could be, what's going to cost them? Up to £1 million if they get relegated.
But the other side of that, and just, I can't argue with what you've said, but a lot of it, and that one wasn't, but a lot of the decisions are going to be down to a matter of opinion. So if Dundee United are saying, I want, for that game, I don't know what they pay. We know it's a sliding scale. If they pay £8,000 for that day, do I get my £8,000 back? But that might have been one of those dodgy, clashes. Is it a football contact? Is it a hack? And you give it one way or the other, and they don't like it. You can't get your £8,000 back for that, but we'll give you it back for this. I can't argue with the basis of what you're saying, but I don't see how it would be practical.
We simply need to increase the level of service that we're currently paying for to get VAR. Clearly, the amount of cameras that they're using, the camera operators, no disrespect to them, I don't know who they are, but clearly they're not getting the same views that we're getting from live footage, from photographers and so forth. That's a classic example. There's no way that VAR has made that decision based on one of the camera angles that I've seen, because you can blatantly clearly see that he's... I don't want to say there's not been any contact, but there's definitely never been enough contact ever for him to fall over.
No, I keep saying it. If that level of contact puts a fit, healthy, young athlete down, then he needs checked medically. There's no way around it. He cheated, plain and simple.
Perhaps even worse than that one was the handball at Kilmarnock that was missed by the on-field referee, Chris Graham, I believe, was it? And then completely missed by VAR as well. Guys, frightening. Andy Considine's jumping up there like Joe Jordan in 1977 down at Anfield, for those of an older persuasion.
You're showing your age now, Lindsay.
I was going to say, there's another hint.
I didn't give you away.
And on an aside of that, I can't remember who it was saying that he was speaking to the ref for that Wales-Scotland game, and he swore blind that it was still a Wales hand. So Wales obviously were playing in blue with a big Umbro thing down their sleeve. No, no idea. And I'm stumbling over my words. If anything, that's even worse than Craig's. Again, we can all make mistakes as on-field refs. It looked to me as if the ref had a clear view of it. We can all make mistakes. He called that wrong. But for VAR not even to have a review of it, I lost for words. completely lost for words.
I'm sorry, I just had to say, I was going to say, Derek McInnes is pretty magnanimous after the game. If he wasn't quite doing a Marco Silva and screaming up and down the touchline to get a red card, but we probably think he could be entitled to, because he was denied another goal for a handball, which we don't think was a handball, and he had one given against him, didn't he? From
and he probably won't remember, because again, it was that long ago. All my dealings with Derek when I was reffing him, and reffing him when he was a manager, I never had a problem with him. He never lost his temper, never spoke out of turn, was always polite. He could give an opinion that might differ from yours, but he was never out of order, in inverted commas. That must have taxed every ounce of decency that he had. If I was a Kilmarnock supporter over the weekend, I'd be seething.
What's the conversation look like at Hampden Park on a Monday morning, Steve, with that? When, again, you're not privy to that conversation, but what do you think the conversation would look like at Hampden Park off the back of that? Because that's probably the most blatant handball we've seen yet. I mean, he's jumped up, his hands fully extended, he's hit the ball away, he's admitted it himself. What's the conversation? I mean, is it a case of who was on VAR that day? Okay, what were you doing at that time? Are you nicking out to get a pie? I mean, what happened?
There would have to be strong words. There really would have to be. Again, the ref has made a mistake. He's missed it on the field.
But I mean, I've seen the camera angle view. He had a great angle to see that.
Yep.
So that's the first mistake. But then VAR, which has been introduced to help these clear and obvious errors.
That's the whole point of the thing. And if it's not doing that, what is the point? But again, and there's no explanation. A mistake's a mistake. We've all made them. And sometimes you look at your mistakes and think, what the hell did I see there? He made a mess of that, and he'll be marked on that accordingly. But he gets one sight at it, split second view. So he's obviously not seen what everybody else has seen, and these things happen. It's a mistake. But for VAR, who can look at it, I mean, we've seen it, 4 minutes, 7 minutes. But he looks at it, and decides that there's nothing in that, and it doesn't need reviewed. No explanation at all.
Do you think VAR are now backing up the referees? I mean, because we said a few weeks ago in the podcast that is VAR now refereeing our games? Because it certainly gave that look about it. Do you think now VAR's going, okay, we need to back up the referees? The referee's got good sight there. He's made a decision. I'm not going to overrule him.
I would hope not. And again, I was going to contradict myself in some of the more 50-50 ones. But again, 50-50 VAR shouldn't be involved because it's clear and obvious.
Yep.
But if I'm VAR and I see that, it doesn't matter how pally I am with the ref. It's me, and we're here talking about it. I'm getting slaughtered for making that decision. And I'm sorry, mate, you made the mistake. I'm not going down with you. The pair of them must be cringing all day today. They're going to be at their work. They are going to be taking dogs abuse all day. And VAR, no, you back up your mates, you back up your colleagues, but not if it's going to mean that you go down with a sinking ship.
Yeah, absolutely. And Crawford Allen's under scrutiny here, isn't he? He's really got to. He hasn't said anything, Steve. He's never
heard a word.
He's got to come out. And is this not the perfect moment? We keep saying it, but is this not the ideal moment to say, look, we've had a bad weekend. We're going to talk to the lads. We're going to try and sort things out.
Absolutely. He was on, what was it, the 9 once that we heard. Not a word since.
And it makes more problems for themselves, doesn't it? You just can't understand it. And just going on from Curtis Main, I know you're quite strong on a big incident at Fir Park in the Motherwell Rangers match, where you think Todd Cantwell is guilty of simulation as well and should be facing the same type of punishment.
Absolutely, he cheated. Now it's debatable whether you think that the Motherwell defender was guilty of an offence in that one. It wasn't a red card. It wasn't violent, wasn't excessive force. Was it reckless? Maybe. Do a Douglas, maybe he's aye, maybe he's not. But he put his hand on him. To me, it looked as though he placed it very gently on him.
Just sort of pushing away.
But, in the Chris Sutton days, what was it? He used to say he was just marking his territory. That seemed to be the extent of it for me. But in this day and age, certainly, if you raise your hands, you're taking the chance. So I don't have an issue one way or the other. I wouldn't have cautioned him personally. I don't have an issue with him being cautioned for that. And if he is, then it's a red card. He's off. The player went down disgracefully.
Yep.
If we're saying that the St Mirren one was a cheat, Mr Cantwell was every bit as much of a cheat the same as Mr. Hattati last week, was a cheat. It's disgusting, it's disgraceful, and he's conning and cheating every single one of us. He should get the same 2-match ban as everybody else.
Not holding back there, Steve, eh? Just going for it in the night.
You told me.
But listen, it's not great for the game. Like you've just immediately highlighted, 3 in the space of a week. And there have been others in the earlier part of the season. And no action's been taken, is it?
No, none. And I remember us saying earlier on in the season that these things weren't as bad here as they were on the continent.
Not so sure.
I admit being proved wrong, but by God, the past couple of weeks it's been appalling. And again, we don't hear anybody coming out and criticising the reaction there.
The big VAR incident at Fir Park was the third goal that Rangers scored, where VAR said that Fashion Sakala was onside and one of the Motherwell defenders was marginally in front of him. And they tried to explain it by putting the 2 lines on their screen, but to all intents and purposes, I think we all felt that Sakala was further ahead.
There's absolutely no doubt he was further ahead. And I know officially that they'll try and say that the bit of the Motherwell defender that was online was his shoulder, this made up T-shirt line.
Yep.
They'll try and say that it was that part of his arm. Contradicting myself, it's not his arm, it's his shoulder. They'll try and say it was that part of his anatomy that was online. Nonsense. Rangers defender was further advanced, and it doesn't matter if it's his toenail, it doesn't matter if it's his whole foot. He was further advanced, and it was actually quite a joke, the line that they drew. It was like using a marker pen. He could have been in the halfway line virtually, going by that line. He was offside.
That's quite strange to see, isn't it? I mean, the technology is supposed to be there. It's supposed to be calibrated to the highest specification with Hawkeye, and that seems to be a glaring error.
Certainly didn't look it.
Is there the same company in Scotland that do it down for the English Premier League?
I believe Hawkeye do it in England as well, yeah. But maybe there's a sliding scale of specifications, like you say, on the equipment. I don't know.
I mean, it must be because, it's hard to say. When you look at the still image, or the camera image that we had, he's offside. You would bet your money on that he's offside. Then they draw the lines and you're going, well, clearly I was wrong. He was clearly onside. But then the more you look at it, you then go, actually, do you know what? I don't believe in them lines neither. But they're not HD. You don't get to zoom right in. I mean, down south are calling offsides on toenails, right? We couldn't do that. Our image quality is that bad that we probably couldn't call off an offside with a foot. But
they also do a graphic, don't they, David? So from above and the side and everything.
Yeah.
In the English Premier League, we don't have that specification.
No,
so it's obviously a lower end product.
Yeah, so I mean, let's bin the product until we're in a financial position to the better quality product, because we're not getting it and it's ruining the game. I
mean, Rangers might have gone on to win that game, who knows? But the match was 2-2 at that point. So if that match ends in 2-2, Celtic, who are pretty much going to win the league anyway, but that would definitely make it over the hill and far away.
Oh yeah, that's the end of any debate if Rangers don't win that one. We're not at the stage where we should be binning the technology, because as we've talked about, in the vast majority of them, the technology works. It's our interpretation that's glaringly wrong. In that one, you couldn't tell anything by that line, and it's up there with the squiggly line that we drew a few weeks ago. And I can hear people, you can hear them in your ear right now. My opinion, that was offside. But the benefit of the doubt is meant to go with the attacker.
Sure.
And I'm contradicting myself. If there's any doubt in that, then the Rangers player should be allowed to go on, and they subsequently scored. Personal opinion is that there wasn't any doubt, there wasn't any debate in that he was offside.
Very interesting, very intriguing. I suppose that the only one side of VAR, there's still some debate about it, and there were 3 big calls at Celtic Park, and you think they were all spot on. So first of all, a red card for Ellie Yuan, the Hibs striker. Yellow for a challenge on Carl Starfelt, if I could get my teeth back in, where he catches him in the shin quite high, and then the second one where Carter Vickers dives in, he picks his boot up and catches the Celtic man on the head. 2 yellows for you?
He should be sent off, put it that way.
Okay.
I think the first one was reddish. What is it? Des says a high tariff yellow.
Orange.
He was, in my opinion, lucky that he wasn't sent off for the first one.
Right.
So no debate that eventually he was sent off. No debate whatsoever. And I know they're saying, Carter Vickers is whatever 7'10".
A man mountain.
Yeah, it doesn't matter if somebody boots you in the head. It's a yellow card. The player was reckless, didn't pay due regard to the player's safety, and put his safety at risk. No question at all.
Is the player not entitled to go for the ball when he's on the ground? I mean, Carter Vickers, is equal in that. He's going down to try and get the ball. Aye. The player's already on the ground. I mean, is he not entitled to go and kick the ball? I can understand if it's high foot, if he's really launched himself up in the air.
He paid no regard. He put the safety of the player at risk. Now, it doesn't matter if you're 6'10" and you're going down, you're stooping down to head the ball. It's wrong. It's an offence if somebody boots you in the head while they do it.
There we go. Learn something new every day. Thank you, Steve.
You're very, very welcome.
2 penalty calls. The first one, Paul Highland's getting his shirt pulled by Starfelt. Not spotted at the time, but VAR got that one spot on.
Absolutely. An example of what VAR's there for.
Yep.
Again, backing up Stephen, I didn't see a penalty. I don't think anybody did, but that's what VAR's there for. And it's not as if it was one of the grey areas, 50-50. It was blatant. It was a pure and simple an attempt to take his shirt off. So VAR was perfectly entitled to get involved in there and did it correctly. That's how it's meant to work.
And coincidentally, Hanlon involved in the other penalty area in his own box, judged to have pulled down Carter Vickers to give Celtic a penalty.
Yep, same scenario. Trying to remove his jumper again. No debates at all. That's how the team is meant to work.
So a tough weekend for the officials in general. What's the way forward, Steve? What could we do from here?
The way forward, it's up to the SFA. I don't believe that this is a reflection of VAR, because the technology, all the ones we've talked about, the pictures are there. It's right in your face. We've seen what's right and what's wrong. It's our interpretation of it. We're making the mistakes. So somebody has to sit down and, it's bad enough refs making mistakes, but again, I've been there, I've made those mistakes. And that doesn't mean that you're good, bad. It means on that particular day you've called something wrong. But VAR, God knows what they do to get guys to sit down and look at that and say, how did you talk me through your thought process that you didn't think Andy Considine was a penalty?
Exactly. How do you train a referee for that? Because Considine literally slam dunks. I mean, that's pretty much what he's doing in that situation. So, like you say, you sit in the referee and go, okay, explain to me why you thought that was not a penalty. Because I think if you can sit with any football fan, I'm going to say, sit with thousands of them, I'm going to say over 98, 99% of football fans are going to go, that's a penalty.
I'm guessing.
So somebody that's in charge of a game gets given that opportunity to watch it back, then decides, nah, it's not a penalty.
I'm guessing that they can only think that the Kilmarnock defender has headed the ball rather than Andy's grabbed it, stopped it with his arm. I can only guess that's what
I still think he was away for a pie. That's the only explanation that I've got in my head why he's managed to miss that.
But even then, aerial dropped out or something.
It broke again. But the queue, if you're in the VIP queue for the pie at Kelly, it doesn't take you 7 minutes, and we've done 7 minutes before for a VAR decision. No explanation. But you need to sit down with that guy. And I've read his name, but no offence to him, I don't know him. But somebody has to sit down with him, and the first instance is to say, do you think you got that wrong? And you start there.
I can understand the SFA wanting to protect referees, totally and utterly get that, right? And at the end of the day, anybody in a normal profession, right, company directors or, the heads of departments don't normally come out and publicly and go, yeah, my employee is shit today. This is the disciplinary action he's going to receive. I'm not asking for that to happen. But they have to be transparent and say, look, we know we've got some of these decisions fundamentally wrong, but this is what we're doing. Yeah. In the meantime, while we still continue with VAR to improve it so we continue to get better, there's nothing, not a thing. No. It's like nobody's, like Scottish football fans are nothing. They want the money when it's good and well, but they don't want to be transparent with us. And you get teams like Dundee United who that 2 points lost could come back to haunt them at the end of the season.
I agree with absolutely everything that you've said, and each and every one of us, but every time that this happens and we hear nothing from the SFA, we are all being treated with contempt, and there's no other way around it. It's completely contemptuous to not come out and even say, and you don't need to name the guys. We all know the games that have been involved. If they come out and say, look, we've had a howler this weekend and we need to do something about it, fine. Because again, I'll keep stressing, I've made the mistakes. Obviously, I didn't make the VAR mistakes because I wasn't there. Yeah. But I've made those mistakes. And let me tell you, I get pulled up. But it's the same guys get the same games every week.
International break coming up, chaps. We're going to have a couple of weeks until the Premiership gets back into operation. Let's hope they've got their ducks in a row by then, Steve.
Maybe not all of them, or we've got nothing to talk about.
Oh, a difficult time for our referees and our officials. And Crawford, if you're out there, let us know what's happening. We'll see you next time on Get Involved Referee.